So it seems crazy to say this, but I've been making videos for over 3 years now. This is actually going to be video number 200 on the channel, and I thought it'd be fun to take a look back at some of my early stuff. If you've been supporting me for a long time, you'll know what the beginning stages of Alfo Media looked like. The biggest inspirations I had for making a YouTube channel in the first place were these young, sort of DIY musicians that were fun to watch, and they were really bursting onto the scene. Back in 2017, my main focus was to shine a light on these musicians, explain their backstories, and talk about why I liked them, because my whole thought process was this. These kids have small, rapidly growing fan bases right now, but all the big outlets are not covering them yet. So if I make videos about them, I'll help the current fans become even bigger fans, and maybe I can even bring in some new fans for them too. In today's video, I want to talk about the initial 5 musicians that I discussed, and basically see how their careers have progressed. Has their music gotten better, worse, stayed the same? Have they hit the mainstream? And are they still using the same styles and sounds? We're gonna do this in order of who I think has gone through a smaller evolution in these 3 years, and as we progress, the transformations will be more dramatic. Starting off with Gus Dapperton, I honestly haven't thought a whole lot about him for the past couple of years. In that time, he's released an EP and 2 albums, and they're fine, but my excitement for him definitely died down a long time ago. When I first heard about him and saw his music videos, I was intrigued right out of the gate. Unusual voice, weird dance moves, everything about the look in general, and the songs were fun, don't get me wrong, but maybe there's a little too much focus on the aesthetic and not the music. Especially in this day and age where, if I really wanted to, I could listen to a new album from an up-and-coming musician every single day. Having a cool, quirky vibe might attract people to check you out at first, but that's not what's going to keep them coming back for years on end. I'd say that all of Gus's music can be categorized as this angsty alternative synth pop. Every now and then he will make something memorable, but as a whole, I wouldn't say there's been much of an artistic evolution. Any of the easygoing, danceable Gus Dapperton tracks that have come out in 2020 could have been the same ones that got me interested in him in 2017. With that being said, the big song off Orca entitled Humorous is something that I would definitely recommend you check out. It's easygoing, there's something nostalgic about it, it's very glistening, and it's a stimulating sing-along track. He's doing his thing. He was featured on Benny's Super Lonely, which is one of the biggest songs of the year, and I'm happy for him. I wish him all the best. Next up is Maggie Rogers, and I have some very strong opinions about what she's been up to lately. The real talking point here is Maggie's debut studio album, 2019's Heard It in a Past Life. This thing catapulted her into the spotlight. She was performing at every festival you can think of. P.S. I saw her and she puts on a really great show, but this album is a roller coaster of pros and cons. To start off with the negatives, it's extremely overproduced. If you've heard any complaints about this album, that is usually the big one, and I totally agree. The unfinished demo that she self-produced and played for Pharrell years ago was fascinating. Alaska includes 2 of her main influences, which she has described as rural folk music and French house music. This indie pop song subtly blends those 2 together, and there is an X factor there. It's almost mysterious, and that's definitely part of the fun. Then with her big debut for Capitol Records, we get these huge, much blander pop anthems, and I started to question where that sense of mystery went. But on the positive side, I still see so much potential in these songs. Her energy is infectious, and that's something you just don't see everywhere. Tracks like Give a Little and The Knife are insanely catchy, and then Overnight and Light On start to show her chops as this enchanting storyteller. In the end, Maggie's only 26, this is her debut record, and it's a solid start. It's just annoying that I know this is something I would have loved if the producers just toned everything down a bit, which from my perspective seems like more of a label thing and less like Maggie's own doing. With that being said, her most recent single, Love You for a Long Time, is much closer to her roots. It's this folky, kinda country pop crossover, and I like it a lot. The lyrics sound hopelessly romantic, but the atmosphere stays very bright and charming. It's the perfect song to drive down the street to on a summer night. If she keeps making stuff like this and travels further down the path of authenticity, I can see her getting more and more comparisons to a modern-day upbeat Joni Mitchell. Rex Orange County is another interesting tale of ups and downs. His big debut was 2019's Pony, and his songwriting is where we get our hits or misses. I think this has always been the big selling point of Rex's music. His debut EP came out when he was a teenager, and it was this raw collection of emotionally charged tracks about love and growing up. I'd say that he was a very mature kid with some childish tendencies. Over the years, and with him being 22 now, you can definitely still hear those two opposite ends of the spectrum colliding within Rex's lyrics. He still has this playful, boyish charm, but now that he's older, we can also see him reflecting on his younger self as if quote-unquote adult Rex knows everything there is to know, and that's clearly not the case either. Pony is a mixed bag, not only when referring to its sounds, styles, and influences, because Rex loves taking bits and pieces of pop, jazz, rock, hip-hop, orchestral stuff, and so on, but it's a mixed bag lyrically too. On the closing track, It's Not the Same Anymore, Rex discusses his fears and doubts in life. It's one of the most passionate songs on the album, which is intriguing because I think it's also one of the more thoughtful. It has a clear purpose. Whereas on other points on this project, like It Gets Better, we see a love song for his girlfriend that feels kind of empty to me. His lyrics are basically saying, because I have you in my life, everything else makes sense now. And this is much less relatable than his previous stuff in my opinion. Because You Will Never Be Free Rex and Pony Rex are perfect examples of something in music that I say time and time again. It might seem backwards, but people relate to lyrics that are specific and personal to the songwriter more than stuff that is general and applicable to anyone. So even though these lyrics from the song Belly have never happened to me, it paints a more vivid picture for me with imagery and my emotions. But on It Gets Better, I don't hear these generic lyrics about a relationship and think of my own examples. These are lines that go in one ear and out the other. So while I think production-wise, instrumentally, his vocals, and maybe his ability to write these earworm hooks and whatnot, Rex has been growing, but I listen to him for clever, sentimental lyrics, and those have been a little hit or miss lately. Alright, the evolution of Brockhampton since my first video on them. Where do I even begin? So the video that is 100% the base for everything I've done in the last few years was uploaded on September 3rd, 2017. This was soon after Saturation 2, so since then, Saturation 3, Iridescence, and we might as well focus on Ginger. To compare what the boys were doing back in this era versus their most recent studio album, yes, I'm ignoring this stuff, I personally see these as demos. I think the main talking point is the idea of cohesion versus independence. The Saturation trilogy felt like every ounce of it was made by this unit working together in harmony, focusing on one outcome. You saw diversity amongst the group for sure, but in my heart and how I was receiving everything, there was synergy. On every song, every video, the group was greater than any individual effort. One member's verse made another's feel even sweeter in the context of the song. Any combination of, okay, we have this track and then this track is right after it, felt like the entire band was relentlessly showing you what they had to offer. And not to say that things are worse now, I strongly do not believe that that's the case, that is not what I'm getting at. Something is just different. Trust me, I think sonically, Sugar is the best thing they've ever come up with. That's a perfect 10 out of 10 pop song right there. It's insane. No Halo is good. Heaven Belongs to You is genius. I'm so happy they put that on the album. I've come to really enjoy If You Pray Right. The title track Ginger is cool, and so on. But for whatever reason, and there is more than just that one obvious theory that you could come up with, it feels less like Brockhampton and more like Kevin, Matt, Merlin, Dom, Joba, and Bareface. They're all talented musicians that I enjoy hearing from, but the way their stuff hits me now, it's less about the collective and more about the individuals. I like the album as a whole. I think that most of the group gives consistently good performances, but at this point, that initial X factor of creative energy from every direction all flowing into one end product is not there anymore, in my opinion. Musically, they're still a genre-bending hip-hop boy band. The sounds and styles haven't changed too much over the years, although maybe they're leaning a bit more into that depressing pop sound than anything. But yeah, this is the one that I'm most interested in for replies in the comments. I want to hear you out. What's your take on Brockhampton now? While it has been fun catching up with these musicians, Clairo is the reason why I wanted to do this video in the first place. At the age of 19, Claire Cottrell started blowing up online after she posted Pretty Girl, a cute, catchy DIY bedroom pop video, which was recorded on her webcam. The next year, Clairo released her debut studio studio EP that featured more of the same kind of stuff. Flaming Hot Cheetos was another simple bedroom pop song that had been floating around for a bit. Hello and BOMD were a little different, only because there were collaborators on them. How could have been from years prior, and Forever was the big standout for me. That track sounded more like an actual hit record, and less like a song that's gonna spread around online, but it's not gonna be universally loved. Diary 001 was a tiny step in the right direction. Clairo went from a very amateur but pleasant musician to a very amateur but pleasant musician that had dropped an EP. But wow. The following year, Claire released her debut studio album, Immunity, and this is a massive jump from everything that she had released before. While I'm gonna mention a few different things, the most obvious point of growth was in her songwriting. She went from making these playful, borderline gimmicky songs to mature, heart-wrenching anthems that are completely unique to her. Alewife, Bags, Sofia, Sinking, I Wouldn't Ask You, all of these tracks cut so deep for me. Between feeling comfortable in your sexuality and then actually celebrating it, and being sick in the hospital and receiving care from those you love, and literal life or death situations during bouts of depression, these are vital, important topics, and Claire is vulnerably spilling her soul to you. It's moving, to say the least. Claire's songwriting is only propelled by the production throughout Immunity. With help from ex-Vampire Weekend member Rostam Batmanglitch, we get these intimate soft rock songs that go from desolate piano ballads to flirty, upbeat alternative stuff. The instrumentals never overshadow Clairo's delivery too. She's not exactly known for having these huge, impressive vocals. Her style is just more casual than that. She's gently, conversationally singing you these words, and it's personal, like a friend that's looking for advice. She's come a long way in a short period of time, and I can't wait to see what she's making in a few years. So, what do you think about the evolutions of these musicians? Who's still gonna be around 5 years from now, and are they gonna be at the top of their game? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and now a message from our sponsors, me. Hi, I'm D-list YouTube personality Harrison Renshaw, and I run a channel called Alfo Media. I'm here to tell you about my new merch and all the cool designs you can get on outloudmerch.com/collection/alfo-media. We've completely revamped the site, and now you can get t-shirts, hoodies, sweatshirts, tapestries, beanies, stickers, and more. We've got all these different color combinations, so many designs, and if you want to see them in action, here are some very attractive people wearing my stuff.